Hey guys, just a word of warning. This is not a political video. I'm just gonna talk about a camera and a lens. So this is it, the Zenit E from the former USSR. So this is a camera that was manufactured between the mid-60s to, well, the late 80s. That's a long time for a camera. And if you were living in Europe, like I do, this was the cheapest camera you could afford. Well, at least the cheapest SLR. If you think China or casinos were cheap, the Zenit was even cheaper. How did they do that? Well, it's pretty easy. Just grab some technology from the 1930s, sell them in the 1960s, and Bob's your uncle. You got a cheap camera. I mean, it was cheap for us in Western Europe, but for someone in the Soviet Union, that was not cheap at all. The features are not really there. Well, for instance, the frame counter had to be manually reset. The top shutter speed is 1/500 with a slower shutter speed of 1/30 with a flash sync speed at 1/30 again. This is not the TTL version. I mean, this grill kind of thing is actually a selenium light meter. These are features that would have been pretty common in the 1950s, but this camera was from 1970. It's pretty easy to find out the date of manufacture on a Zenit camera. The first two digits of the serial number are the year of manufacture. But at least you get a self-timer for family photos or group photos from your co-workers at the factory. Yes, it's a Soviet camera. What did you expect? But in the end, this is a simple camera that does everything it was made for. I mean, yes, it's a simple camera, but it does what it's meant to do, to take pictures. And something that is striking about this is this lens, the Helios 44-2. The lens is probably the most mythical lens in the world. The Helios 44-2 gives you this, coupled with a digital camera. And look at that. It's creamy bokeh. It's just majestic. I think I love this image. But if you stop it down just a little, you might get something really interesting, just like this. It's a sharp lens if you know how to use it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not the best camera in the world, far from it. It has a lot of limitations. No high shutter speeds, no slow shutter speeds. But in the end, it's still a pretty cool looking camera and it grows on you. Well, let's talk about the viewfinder for a second. There is a ground glass, which is a ground glass. There's no microprisms or split image. It's just a plain old ground glass. The lens is also the preset type. So you preset the aperture, you keep it wide open while you focus, and before you take the shot, you shall not forget to close the diaphragm. Otherwise, you're gonna get something that is totally overexposed. But once you get used to it, it's pretty fine. Prices for these cameras have increased over the past few years, and you shall not pay too much for a camera like this. Just wait, and sometimes they pop up for around 20 bucks or something. Most of these cameras need to be serviced. When you think about it, the Soviet era lubricants from 50 years ago are not lubricating anything anymore. But it's a very simple job when you think about it. There's a lot of tutorials online on how to disassemble it, and since they are cheap cameras, well, if you break one trying to learn how to repair a camera, it's not a big deal. If you get yourself a Nikon, a Canon or a Pentax, you know these are gonna be good cameras. A Zenit, well, you lower your expectations. And you know what? You get more than what you were hoping for. These are cameras that literally grow up on you. I was not really in love with the Zenit cameras back when I was a kid. These were the cheapest cameras, and they were literally available on the second-hand market almost everywhere. Sometimes people were asking crazy prices for them, but most of the time they were sold like 5 to 10 bucks tops. So these were considered to be the cheap cameras you could get, but at the end of the day, the results were pretty good, and I learned how to love them, and so should you. Then that's all I got for you today. As always, thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time. Leave a like, a comment down below, and subscribe. See ya.